Hey everybody, welcome to my broadcast, everybody. This is Mike here. Mike tends to travel. M tends to travel is what I go by. I wanted to come on and do a broadcast here on YouTube about traveling and answering some of the top five travel questions that I get all the time. So welcome. Just a quick background about me for the folks who don't know who I am. My name is Mike, and I go by Mike Tends to Travel on most of my social media, including here on YouTube. And so basically what I do is what I've been doing for most of my life is traveling around the world. I've been to more than 100 countries around the world and all 50 US states. So I've been fortunate enough to be able to travel around the country and around the world as well. Some of it has been done on my own. Some has been done through my job. I am a journalist by profession. That's my job by profession. And so it's been an amazing life being able to see so many places around the world. So what I try to do is try to share some of my knowledge in terms of travel with the folks who follow me on Periscope, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, all the different places, right? So that's what I try to do. So one of the questions I keep getting asked is one of the questions, and I will get right into it, is how to afford to travel so much. So that's kind of like the number one question a lot of people tend to ask is how can you afford it? Because money is always a concern of individuals, right? People are always asking about, it's expensive to travel. How do you do it? You know, that sort of thing. So actually, there are several ways you can travel. There are many ways you can travel, right? And some people need to have a luxury hotel, luxury accommodations, resorts. I mean, you can stay in some nice places. Some people love to have that sort of thing, right? They need to have that. Others do more like adventure traveling, and they travel on a budget. And I've done both, by the way. I've done the whole fancy hotel thing, which is, I'm not knocking it. Fine, if that's what you want, how you want to travel, you should travel what makes you comfortable in terms of traveling, right? Whatever makes you comfortable. I travel like that. I travel a little bit in the middle too, staying at maybe budget hotels, but I've also traveled in a way what I call is adventure type traveling. And what do I mean by that? That means that I travel on a budget and I end up staying at people's houses as a stranger, staying at people's homes, through couch surfing, for example. I'm a couch surfer. I couch surf. And so if you don't know what couch surfing is a website, by the way, where you can actually go on the website and you can go on this website and actually go in the website. Let's say I'm going to Rome. I plug in Rome. I look up people who are actually living in Rome, look at their profiles, and I decide who I'd like to stay with. I send them a request. Hey, I'm Mike. I'm so-and-so. I'm coming to Rome. I love it if you can host me. I can stay with you, crash at your couch, or whatever they provide. It could be a couch, could be a room, could be a mansion, could be anything. It could be the kitchen floor, could be out in the garden in a tent. It depends. Everything is on the profile, so you kind of get a sense of what you're getting. And then you say, I have a profile. Check out my profile, and if the person accepts you, then you get to stay with them for free. Now, here's the thing: couch surfing. Yes, you get to stay in a place for free anywhere around the world. However, it's not the main goal of couch surfing. Couch surfing is about intercultural exchange, right? Intercultural exchange. So if I'm going to Rome, I want to meet someone that I think might be interesting, an interesting meeting them, and maybe we'll form a friendship of some kind. We have something in common. And so we share some things in common and that sort of thing. So that's what it's really about, because people ask, why would someone have you stay free? You know, well, that's the whole idea, is to meet people from different parts of the world and hang out with them, share a meal with them, maybe go out, they show you their hometown and that sort of thing. So it's kind of a cool way to travel. I've been doing that for years. I'm actually the couch surfing ambassador, a couch surfing ambassador. I've been an ambassador for a lot of years now, and now I'm the couch surfing ambassador for Los Angeles. Before that, while I was traveling, I was actually a couch surfing ambassador, traveling ambassador. So I was traveling a lot, right? So now I'm just sort of like stationary in Los Angeles. I'm the couch surfing ambassador here in LA. So anyway, that's one way to do it. One way to travel is to do it through couch surfing. You save money on hotels. Lodging is one of the biggest expenses when you are traveling, right? Lodging can be one of the biggest expenses, meals as well, but lodging especially, because you have to pay. You can go without some meals sometimes, right? You can go without a meal, but with couch surfing, with lodging, you got to have a place to stay when you're traveling, right? So it's kind of cool when you are able to stay with a local person in whatever country, in whatever city, whatever small village or town, right? Because they know the place, and you get to have an instant friend there who knows the place. So that's the number one way I've been traveling, couch surfing around the world. Through couch surfing, I have met so many people, met so many people that a lot of them have become friends of mine today. And how does that pay off? Because a lot of them now are friends of mine around the world, that I can go just about to any country around the world now and have a place to stay, because these are friends of mine, right? I can go to Poland and know people in Poland. I know people in Germany. I know people in South Africa. I know on and on and on, whatever country, Chile, you know. And so that's how it is. So through couch surfing, then you establish friendships. And so now I have friends, real friends around the world that I can actually hang out and stay with. So that's the payoff. There are other ways to travel. If you're not comfortable with couch surfing, there's a thing called Workaway. You can volunteer. So you can do volunteer work. What does that mean? In some countries, you are not allowed to work legally. For example, in Europe, all around Europe, the EU, some other countries, you're not allowed to work legally and make money unless you have some sort of work visa, right? Especially on a tourist visa. However, you can do volunteer work. And what does that mean? You spend some time doing volunteer work wherever. Let's say, for example, I've done volunteer work at hostels, I should say, several hostels. And they provide you a place to stay. And oftentimes they provide meals, food. So that takes care of your lodging and your meals, right? While doing volunteer work. There's several websites that do this, several. One of the websites I use in particular is called Workaway. It's called Workaway, workaway.info. And with Workaway, you can go on the website and look up volunteer opportunities wherever you're going, all around the world. It's worldwide. So let's say if I'm going to Poland, which I did, I look up, what do I want to do in Poland? Maybe I want to work in a hostel. Maybe I want to teach English. Maybe I want to do some painting. Maybe someone needs you to paint a barn or whatever, you know. So you look up whatever skills you may have or skills you want to learn, because sometimes they're like, it doesn't take any skill to paint, right? So someone's looking for someone to paint. People are looking for babysitters, house sitters, all kinds of things people are looking for. So if you're a carpenter, electrician, whatever you are, you have those skills, you can bring it with you and travel the world from using your skills in exchange for housing and so on. Now, the way the website works is that because it's volunteer work, it's not a full-time job. You work for 2 hours, 3 hours a day, 3 hours tops maybe. And then you have the rest of the day or even days to go off and explore whatever city you're in. So you go off and explore, right? So, or in the afternoon or the morning or whenever, right? So that's how it works. So you're not working 8 hours. That's against the rules, right? To be working, because then it's not volunteering. You're working a full-time job, right? So you got to look out for that. I have to be honest with you. Some people on the website will try to abuse that and try to get you to work beyond the 2, 3, 4 hours, and you're working all day, and that's not what the website is about. So you got to guard against that and speak up, or at least report them and say, I'm moving on, whatever, right? So it's all about volunteering a couple of hours a day, or 2 hours a day, or whatever, 3 hours a day. And then you have the freedom. Again, if I'm in, I don't know, Morocco, and I'm working 2 hours, I got the rest of the day to go off and be a tourist, right? If you want to use that word, go journey around and see things, sightseeing, that sort of thing. So that's another way to do it. It's an awesome way to travel, and you meet people again. You meet a lot of interesting people along the way, and some of them, yes, become friends, some not so, but it's okay. You move on, you do your thing. And the cool thing about volunteering, you can do it short term. Let's say they want you for 2 weeks, maybe 3, and you get a place to stay for that long, or you can do it for 3 months. You're right? However long you work it out. So you have, the cool thing is you can stay longer periods doing volunteer work. So that is really cool, I think. And again, you don't pay anything for lodging. You get a room or whatever it is they provide you with. And I did that quite a bit, volunteering work. Some of the website, you have to pay a fee for it, but it pays itself off. It pays off. Some of them, I think most of them really, you pay a fee. I think Workaway now, it's up to, it used to be 20 when I started. I think it's now $38. But even $38 for a fee to use the website for 1 year, 38 for one, or is it 2 years? I believe it was 2 years. Even that, it pays off. It pays off in immeasurable ways, right? So that's another way to do it. So when people ask me, how do you afford it? There are ways to do it, right? There are ways to do it. And then, of course, the kindness of strangers. Kindness of strangers. Transportation is another one of the costs. If you're in a particular place, you can through couch surfing and through other ways, you can meet up with other travelers and pay for transportation expensive, like cars or even someone local person. I do. There are car services that you can do, like there's a BlaBlaCar. BlaBlaCar, for example. You can do BlaBlaCar. I don't know if you ever heard of BlaBlaCar, but in Europe, I use BlaBlaCar extensively because it's an awesome way to travel besides the trains. BlaBlaCar is basically local people. Someone, let's say, is driving, and I use BlaBlaCar from Madrid to Portugal. I was in Madrid, and I wanted to go to Portugal, and this individual was actually driving to Portugal. To Portugal. And so you go on the website, you look them up, and you look who's going between those 2 points. You contact them, and you pay the fee through the website. That's it. You don't give anyone any cash. The fee is paid through the website, right? And so you meet them at a particular spot where they said the meetup is, and it could be yourself, or it could be 2, or however many people they accommodate in the vehicle besides the driver. And it could be 2 other people or 3 people, depending on the size of the vehicle. And you drive, they take you. So BlaBlaCar is a great way to save money and to meet people and get there quickly and efficiently. And it's awesome. And I use BlaBlaCar a lot when I'm traveling. And BlaBlaCar is in the US, but people don't use it so much here. And there's a website again, so you have a profile, the person's profile is there, everything about them. At the end of the trip, just like at the end of couchsurfing, you leave references, right? In couchsurfing, you leave a reference. This person was cool. We did this, we did that. They were awesome, or whatever. BlaBlaCar, the same thing. This guy's a great driver. We had conversations. Cool. And BlaBlaCar, you put whether you like to want music or not. It's a great way to travel, guys. So again, savings, more savings there, right? I've done, and I don't recommend this for everybody. It depends on your comfort level. I didn't do it because I didn't have money. I just wanted to do it for the experience, and that is hitchhiking. I've done hitchhiking in Europe. I've done hitchhiking in South America, right? Again, it wasn't because of lack of money. There were other ways to travel. It's just that I wanted to experience it, hitchhiking, right? And it's not for everybody. It can be tough sometimes depending on where you are. I actually hitchhiked from Poland all the way across Europe, from Poland to Portugal. I hitchhiked, and it was relatively easy getting a ride along the way, standing along this highway, or rather gas stations, and asking people for a ride. It was relatively easy until I got to a certain point in Portugal, and I knew that was going to happen because other hitchhikers that I met along the way told me that you would have a difficult, and not only that, there's a website that tells you that points where you can get great places, you can get a ride, where you can go stand in whatever country, whatever gas station to get a ride. So it tells you where you can go, right, to get a ride. So and the websites mention Spain and Portugal in particular as tough places to get a ride because the people aren't quite trusting there. And it was hard. And when I got to Portugal, I was stuck there for hours trying to get a ride. I even had to camp. I had a tent. I set up my tent because I couldn't get a ride the whole day. I set up a tent in the middle of in the forest somewhere, and I slept overnight, woke up, took down my tent, tried it again. And then I got a ride because the guy who picked me up said, "Weren't you here last night?" And he picked me. He took me a short distance, and then I started getting rides from there. So it can be tough. It's not for everybody. I don't recommend it. I've had great experiences hitchhiking, and in fact, on my website, MikeTensyTravel.com, I put it on my website with all the people who picked me up. I have photos with them, and in whatever countries they picked me up. And it was only one time I really felt uncomfortable. And it was a guy in France in a van. And he kept saying, "Hey, I live over there. I live over there." He kept trying to convince me to get off the freeway and go to his house. And I was like, "No, I really need to," so I was like thinking of ways that, but that was the only time. Most people were super nice, super helpful, super full of information. In fact, some of them offered me a place to stay, and I stayed with a couple from Portugal. We arrived at the location they were going to leave. They said, "We can't leave you here at night in the dark. You got to come stay with us." And I said, "Okay." And they seemed friendly. They were nice, and I stayed with them. I was only supposed to stay with them one night. I ended up staying 3 weeks, almost 3 weeks, because they kept saying, "Stay, stay." They wouldn't want me to leave. They kept saying, "Stay." They had a son, and I was teaching him some English as well. So it was really cool. Yeah, really cool. So again, met some people in Portugal, and they were nice, gave me a ride. And then I moved on, right? So that's another way to save money. Again, that one I only recommend for people who have a little bit of street smarts and some savvy about them. And, and I've had women, some women, single women who have hitchhiked by themselves, but they take precautions. There's precautions single women can take. Traveling, some of them have used, for example, Facebook, and they've taken photos of the person who picked them up and put it on Facebook and say, "Hey, I'm putting it on Facebook that you picked me up," and everyone on Facebook knows who they're with, the drivers, the picture of the person, so there are ways it can be done, right? So, but women especially have to be careful, obviously, clearly. Drinking my coffee this morning. So that's one way. So that's the number one question I get asked. How do you afford it? And again, couch surfing, to summarize, couch surfing, volunteer work, and doing volunteer work, as well as the kindness of strangers. And then, of course, BlaBlaCar and some hitchhiking. And so there are ways to do it. And some camping, because I had a tent at one point. I ditched the tent eventually, but you can use the tent, right? So that's one way of doing it. Okay, second question, favorite place. What is your favorite place? I tell people I've been to more than 100 countries in all 50 US states, and they always ask me the same question. What is your favorite place? Well, out of 100 countries, more than 100 countries, it becomes, hey, how are you? How are you, Pragia? Out of 100 countries, it becomes difficult to choose, because every country I've been to, even the poorest of the poorest, have always had something special about them, right? They've always had something special about them. But I always go back to the ones that I had an amazing time, and I always go back to the ones that surprised me the most. For example, Colombia. I went to Colombia. When I got to Colombia, I had the most amazing time in Colombia. I was only planning on staying 3 weeks in Colombia, in certain cities in Colombia. And I ended up staying longer, because I found the country, not only the country was amazingly beautiful, but also the people were super, super friendly. They were so nice. I mean, genuinely nice people. And what do I mean by that? First of all, the country. Colombia was closed off for many, many years to people. Most governments told their citizens not to travel to Colombia. Why? Because it was a dangerous place. There was narco trafficking. There was a lot of violence. There was all sorts of bad things going on in Colombia at the time, right? And that was true. But since Colombia, finally, one of the presidents of Colombia came in and cleaned it all up, and Colombia basically was liberated, not all of it, but a good chunk of the country was freed of all that violence and narco trafficking, and it became safe. Medellin, for example, beautiful city. Cartagena, various places. There's still some places that are kind of sketchy, but for the most part, Colombia was amazing. So a lot of foreigners weren't going to Colombia unless you were a journalist or something visiting, or for work, or your relatives, or you're from there, right? Once the country opened up and I went to Colombia and I started visiting all these places that tourists were not visiting, I was blown away. I couldn't believe it. I went to a place called Tatacoa, for example. It's a desert, the Tatacoa Desert in Colombia. And this place was overrun by guerrillas. It's first, in the beginning, they got rid of all the guerrillas. And then when I went to this town outside of Tatacoa, I was one of the first tourists coming through with my backpack, clueless, with my friend Yanis. We went through the town, and we went to the Tatacoa Desert, and I was blown away by the landscape of this place. It's amazing to see a place on Earth that reminds you of a different planet. It reminded me, it didn't feel like I was on planet Earth anymore. It was red clay formations with maize. The entire place was like this red clay. It was amazing, and it was beautiful, and no lights, and you see millions and millions of stars at night. And it was just an amazing place called the Tatacoa Desert. And then Parque Tayrona in the north, on the Pacific Ocean side. I'm sorry, the Atlantic Ocean side, the Caribbean, if you will. Because Colombia is the only country in South America with two oceans, right? It has the Pacific Ocean, and it has the Caribbean, or let's say the Atlantic, right? And so when I went to Parque Tayrona, it was a good hike by myself, hiking through the forest. You can walk through, and then you emerge on this beautiful, pristine beach, this amazing beach that just blew my mind. I was like, whoa. And I camped there. You can camp there. So I camped 3 nights on Parque Tayrona by myself. There are other campers nearby and so on. And there are actual official camping sites there as well. So I went there. I went to Santa Marta. I went to Barranquilla for Carnival. Amazing carnival. You think Rio has a great carnival? Try Barranquilla's carnival. It's like the people's carnival. Amazing carnival. Time in Barranquilla. I went to the south, to Cali. Now, a word about Cali. Cali is a great place to party. Everybody dances salsa. Everybody's hanging out at night. But Cali is still one of those cities in Colombia that's still not safe. It still has the narco trafficking thing going on, the kidnappings, that sort of thing going on. And so you feel the tension when you're there. So you have to be careful in Cali. But the rest of it, Medellin, you should be careful everywhere you go. But I'm just saying it's especially careful in Cali. Sorry, Cali people, but you guys know what I'm talking about, right? So that's one thing. But for the most part, Colombians, I would say on the bus, but the bus driver, I speak Spanish. I'll say the bus driver, hey, can you tell me how to get to so and so? And everybody on the bus were trying to be helpful to get to show me how to get there. In fact, there were many times in Colombia where I asked someone a question, how would I find this? Where do I directions? And not only would they go out of the way, they'd be going in that direction, they would turn around and walk with me and show it to me. And they didn't want any money, they didn't want anything, they just wanted me to get there safe. That's all they wanted. And they just were just being kind. So that's Colombia, right? So Colombia is one of the places. Anyway, Switzerland, I love Switzerland because of the nature. Beautiful country, Switzerland. South Africa is a beautiful country too. The people are amazing there. And the culture and all of that. So there's special places that I really, really enjoy. So out of 100 of them, I found special places everywhere I went. So that's my long answer to say I don't really have a favorite. I have a bunch of favorite things about different countries. Okay, third questions. Are you scared about traveling alone? I travel alone, right? I decided to travel alone. I've traveled with friends before, but I find it really more interesting for me to travel alone. Then I decide what I want to do, right? Traveling solo, right? But it doesn't mean I end up solo. Every time I travel alone, I end up with other travelers. I end up hanging out with local people. I ended up with somebody, meeting people along the way. Rarely have I been traveling and been alone the whole time. The only time I'm alone is because I really go out of my way to be alone. But for the most part, especially if I'm couch surfing and all that, I'm not alone because I'm staying with a local person who has friends and I'm meeting their friends and other couch surfers, blah, blah, car and all these other things, right? So I'm rarely alone when I'm traveling. If I really want to be alone, I can be, but it's not. So it's not lonely as some people say. Some people think it's lonely. No, it's not. I've never been lonely traveling. I've always been around other people. And so the cool thing about it is that at the end of the day, you decide, okay, nice meeting you guys, nice meeting you, and you move on and you do your thing versus being with someone else. And I'm not knocking traveling because I've seen couples, and that's cool, traveling together or groups of friends traveling together. But sometimes it's a struggle because one person wants to do one thing, one person wants to do the next, one person is not feeling well, they're arguing, a lot of fights when you're traveling. So I have none of that. When I'm ready to move on, I move on my own, right? So that's that. Okay. Do I miss places? Question number 4. Do you miss New York? Do you miss China? I do not. I absolutely never miss places. Wherever I am at the time is where I'm at, right? I never miss places. I miss friends in those places, but I never say, oh my God, I'm missing New York. I'm missing China. Now, here's a weird thing. You might think this is strange, right? If I'm back in New York, that's when I start to miss it. Is that the weirdest thing? So if I'm back in a place, I'm like, oh my God, I'm in New York. This is awesome. I start to see the things and I'm like, oh my God, I miss this. But once I leave, I don't miss it because I think traveling, you should be in the moment. I'm in Los Angeles and I'm in the moment in Los Angeles. I'm about exploring Los Angeles, meeting the people in Los Angeles, going to the amazing places of Los Angeles. That's what I'm doing. So I don't sit around in Los Angeles moping about New York, China, Portugal, all these places, right? I don't do that. I think that's a waste of your time and you're missing out places. You have to kind of have that attitude about you're in the moment of where you are, right? And that's how you should do it, right? So I know, absolutely never say, oh my God, I miss it. If I miss it that much, I will return. If I'm missing that much, I go back, right? So yeah, okay. So question number 5. Have I ever been, number 5, right? Top question number 5. Have I ever been in danger or any dangerous situations? Yes. Yes. And traveling, when you're traveling, especially if you're traveling the way I travel with a backpack by yourself and all that, sometimes you find yourself in situations, but you have to have your antennas up, right? You have to have a feel for it. I'm from New York. I kind of know, I know what's going on all around me. I've got all my sensors working, right? And so I can tell when something feels not good and when it's time to leave the party, right? When it's time to get out of there. So I was in, where was I? Ecuador. Was it Ecuador? Yeah, it was Ecuador. And I met some local people, these girls, and they said, hey, let's go to a party. And then and then there was another American guy. I didn't know him, and he met them too. And we went to this location, and they were there, and they were standing around. So, okay, where's the party? Oh, we're waiting for some friends. We're waiting for some friends. 3 guys show up in a car. The guys never got out the car. The girls kept going over to the car, talking to these guys. The guys were looking at us. They were on their phones. And I was like, okay. I told the other guy, the American guy, I said, okay, this is starting to feel a little bit not safe. How do you feel? And what's your gut telling you? And he says, me too, I'm feeling the same. I says, we should go with our guts, right? Let's go with our guts. And we just basically, I said, time to go, because it was feeling like it wasn't going to be a safe situation. And I said, good night. The girl said, where are you going? I said, good night. And we just walked away, get in the taxi, and we left, right? So you have to go with your gut, right? But that's rarely happened. For the most part, I don't put myself in dangerous situations. But yes, you have to kind of go with that instinct that you've been given. And when your gut tells you, no, this doesn't feel right? So that's what you got to go with, right? So that's that. And then, of course, I had a situation. I was on a bus. I've told the story before, where I was going from Colombia to Ecuador, I think. Well, yeah, Ecuador, crossing the border, close to the border, and there was raining a lot of rain coming down. And then what happened is that we got to a point in the Andes Mountains, or in the mountains, and traffic came to a standstill. And it turns out there was a rock slide, a mudslide, like a rock slide, and the cars and truckers were working to try to clear the road, because it's 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, and nobody's going to come clear the road. So they were trying to do it by hand, moving rocks and try to clear at least one lane to open it up to traffic. And it took them like an hour plus to do that. When they finally, traffic started flowing toward us, they had opened that one lane. It was 2 lanes, right? And one lane was open, so traffic started flowing toward us in that direction. Then when it was our turn to go, someone was like, okay, you go now, to kind of get traffic going. It was still raining like crazy. Next thing, I was sitting right in the front of the bus. Next thing I heard is this sound, and then it sounded like the whole side of the mountain was coming down. Rocks were bouncing off the mountain. Another slide was happening. The bus was getting hit with the rocks, pelted with these big boulders, and people on the bus were screaming, praying. The bus driver hit the gas, and just while the bus was getting hit with all these rocks, it was just crazy. We thought we were gonna die, right, on this mountain, because what's happening in the Andes Mountains, you get these curvy roads, and most of the time it's just a drop off. There's nothing else. It's just a canyon on the other side of you. So you get knocked over, you go off, you're down the canyon, you're done. And that's happened before, where buses have gone off the road and people have died going off the roads in South America. So that was a dangerous situation. Nothing that I did, but nature and the circumstances and so on. So yeah, there've been times like that, for sure. And of course, I've been in dangerous situations as my job profession as a journalist, but that's just my job as a foreign correspondent. I was a foreign correspondent, and my job was to go to dangerous places. And so it happened many times. In Honduras, I got hit by an AK-47. A guy hit me with an AK-47. In Haiti, a guy pointed a gun at me. I was in a war zone. It was just kind of crazy. So stuff like that happens, yes. All right. So a bonus question. So that was 5 questions I answered. a bonus question, and that people ask me, my favorite food. Where is the place like their favorite food? Bonus question number 6, best food. I always say Peru. Peru has the most amazing food in the world, Peru. And there's a reason for that. I mean, you can get great food anywhere in the world, well, pretty much anywhere in the world. They have their local foods, local dishes. Food is amazing in some places and so on. But Peru always comes to mind because Peru is one of those countries that has a blend of different cultures, right? So Peru has Japanese, the native population, Afro population from Africa, Indian population from India, Europeans. And so what's happened in Peru, all those different cultures have come together and blended whatever borrowed. Peruvian food is borrowing from all those different cultures and throwing it to and using the best of all of them, their spices and this and that and different foods and creating something amazing. And that's what I'm talking about. That's Peruvian food in a nutshell, basically creating something amazing. So that's what I love about Peruvian food, but it's just all these different spices, flavors coming together. But of course, I love Italian food. So Italian food for me is amazing. So that's it. So that's it, guys. I don't know if anybody has any questions or want to toss that at me. You have specific questions. If not, I'm going to end it here. Hopefully this answers questions about how I afford to travel, favorite places, whether I've been in a dangerous situation, what places do I miss, you know, that's sort of, and the best foods. So that's it. So anyway, barring any questions, I guess there are no questions. Drink my coffee here. I'm going to end the scope and say, guys, make sure you subscribe to my channel here. Mike Tends to Travel here, so make sure you subscribe. I do travel tips. Follow me on Twitter. It's M Tends to Travel on Twitter. And also I do live stream on Periscope, and that is M Tends to Travel as well on Periscope. You can find me on Twitter on Periscope as well. So, and then my Instagram is Mike Tends to Travel. I'm on Facebook as well. Just search for Mike Tends to Travel on Facebook. I have a travel page on Facebook. Check me out there. So, or just Google Mike Tends to Travel. All my social media comes up. Okay. All right, guys, I'm going to go. Thanks very much for joining me. I really appreciate you all, and take care. See you around. Okay. Bye-bye.